Right, and you live, guys.
Evening.
Hi,
Evening,
guys.
everyone.
What's going on? Oh, wow, we're just nice and quiet. Everybody stay here, look at each other.
Yeah. Well, do you want to go alphabetical order?
Alphabetical.
That means you'd be starting, Eileen, and then
Oh,
we'll go.
Listen, I'm a late addition to this.
Or will I start? It's up to you.
I'm a very late invitee.
Does anybody particularly want to start?
Oh, I've got a good one.
Okay.
A friend of mine in California used to be my neighbor. Used to watch my son too when I was at work, but when he get off school, so they had a couple of hours hanging out with him and his kids. But he used to work at the Toys R Us up in Sunnyvale, California.
Mm-hmm.
And this Toys R Us, it's in the Silicon Valley region, just south of San Francisco.
Yeah.
And it gained notoriety in the late 70s and 80s as one of being a well-documented haunted location, haunted retail spot. The store opened in 1970. It was previously farmland, part of the old Murphy family ranch and orchard from the 1800s. Almost immediately after opening, employees and customers reported strange occurrences like dolls, balls, books mysteriously flying off the shelves or bouncing down aisles on their own. Cold breezes or chills in otherwise warm areas. The standard normal ghosty stuff. Phantom touches, disembodied voices, faucets in the women's restroom turning on and off by themselves, toy balls bouncing by themselves, baby swings moving, etc., etc. They were reported by both believers and skeptical people among the staff. And the phenomenon were consistent enough to become legendary. Customers, everybody saw this stuff happening. In the late 70s, famous and controversial psychic, everybody's favorite, Sylvia Browne, conducted multiple seances in the store. She came to contact the spirit of a Swedish immigrant, preacher, ranch hand, named Johnny, or Yanni, Jan, Janssen, or Johan. They don't know the name, of course, because I guess it just doesn't come through a seance very well. I don't know.
Well, any J name will do.
Yeah, or Y, Yanni. You got to get that in there too. So we've got some variation. Who supposedly worked on the Murphy's farm in the 1880s. According to Sylvia, he fell in love with the farmer's daughter, Elizabeth Murphy, or some other person. But she rejected him and married somebody else, maybe a lawyer. Heartbroken, he accidentally injured his leg severely while chopping wood in the orchard. Why would you be chopping wood in the orchard? But okay, he bled out slowly and died alone on the property, becoming a restless spirit who lingered because he never moved on. So why are the taps in the ladies' restroom being turned on? But Brown described it as stubborn and argumentative, even nagging her during her sessions. And he disliked the noisy kids in the store, but enjoyed playing pranks. So that was a couple of little things. The story appeared in newspapers, paranormal books, and sites like Snopes, which covered it as a persistent urban legend. So the store was there for a long time. And the Toys R Us chain went bankrupt, and this store permanently closed in 2018. The building sat vacant for a bit and briefly became a Spirit Halloween pop-up, which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And by 2021, it was repurposed as an REI outdoor gear store. Reports of ongoing paranormal activity at REI are rare to non-existent. Nothing happening. Most ghost stories faded after the Toys R Us branding left, but some locals and paranormal enthusiasts still joke about Johnny potentially lingering on the land itself. So skeptics point out inconsistencies, no clear historic records of this Johnny Johnson matching the exact story, possible census mismatches, and the chance that a poltergeist-like activity was exaggerated or due to pranks. Believers see that it's a classic case of a spirit tied to a site rather than a building. But I just thought it was kind of interesting. Everybody was talking about it. I mean, I remember a number of people saying, did you ever get a chance to explore the Toys R Us up there? And no, I never did. I never bothered to go up there to do that. But I thought it was kind of interesting. And now, what happened when they remodeled the store to turn it into an REI? Did the ghost get released, or did somebody go in and help the ghost cross over, or what's going on with that? What do you all think?
Yeah.
Interesting. We had a similar thing. You might remember this place, Linda. Do you remember Littlewoods on Princess Street? Remember Littlewoods department store?
Yeah.
On Princess Street in Edinburgh. I was a Saturday girl there when I was at school. I used to work there on Saturdays on the cheese counter. Very glamorous. And we had the storeroom was kind of up 4 flights of stairs way up the top of the building.
Yeah.
And we used to have to go up regularly there to get things like bags and the wee bits of tissue paper that you need for putting the cheese and stuff into. And there was a big storeroom. It was a really big, and it was a bit like you see in an Amazon warehouse because they had all the racks, all the goods and things for the shop floor, as well as the consumables that we needed as well. And somebody told me, one of the porters told me about this when I first started. I was only 15, 16 at the time. And, there's ghosts up there and there's ghosts, and I never believed them, And at 15 and 16, you're very naive and everybody kind of takes a mickey and takes advantage of you, don't they?
Yeah.
Plays all the pranks on you when you're new. Until I went up to the storeroom once on my own, and there was a very, very, I thought the place was on fire. I was getting ready to hit the alarm bells. There was a overpowering smell of tobacco.
Yeah.
And smoking was strictly prohibited because it was very highly combustible, everything that was in there. But there was an area of this warehouse sort of place, and it was absolutely reeking of smoke. And apparently it was an old storeman who they had found, he had passed away. He used to go up, he had a little hideaway apparently under the racks, and he used to crawl under there and fall asleep.
Yeah.
A wee bit of a skive, and they found him. He passed away one day, and that's where they found him.
Oh.
So there was definitely something there. And apparently that's what he used to do. He used to go up and have his fags and everything and crawl underneath and fall asleep. So that was a really unexpected sort of haunting in a modern day building, and there was a wee bit poltergeist sort of activity around him as well, playing games with you. Things would go missing, and you would go up with like a big sort of rubric of stuff that you had to go and collect, and you would put it down and go about picking the orders that you needed, and you'd turn around and it would be gone. And I'd only been there 2 minutes beforehand. There was no reason for it to have moved. So I never knew the guy. This had all happened sometime before I was working there, but he was quite playful. But that was quite interesting for the time.
On the retail thing, I have a couple of retail ones in the same place, actually. One of them, back in the days when you could still smoke in the indoors, it was not long after I had been on a particular TV show. And every time we went to the cafe, we would end up holding court for about 3 hours with people coming and asking me questions about the crew and the celebs and all the other stuff. And this one time, somebody else was telling quite a long story, and I'm just sitting doodling. And I've put a picture in, if Carl can pop that up. I'm doodling away, and I effectively drew this guy who's going to pop up on screen at some point. And my mom and 2 of the girls that were sitting with us are like, what's that? I'm like, I have no idea, but he just came out of that shop over there, and he's walked the full length of the concourse of the shopping centre, just walked through the fountain, through the lift, and disappeared into the other wall. And to all intents and purposes, he looked like him. And it's like, I wasn't even thinking, what the hell's he doing there? I was kind of half zoned out anyway, listening to the other person's story. And this guy in a matching pale blue velvet suit as well, the full-on little boy blue look, but for an adult. And the guy had the same kind of wig this guy's wearing. It probably wasn't this guy himself, but somebody from that time period just walked the full length of the concourse of the shopping centre. And it's like, what?
Whereabout was that, Linda? Whereabout was that?
The old St Giles shopping centre in Elgin High Street. It's what used to be. If you go back to the times of grass markets and hay markets, it's the bit that was the grass market for Elgin.
Right.
So I presume he was one of the money men that was looking for a farmer to grow stuff for him. I would presume. Another one from the same place. I started working when I was younger, before I had the job I've got now. Every job I got was sick cover, pregnancy cover. It was all short-term cover. So by the time I got my current job, I was 27-year-old and had had 38 jobs. So I got a job when we had, I've forgotten the name of it now, a body shop. Body shop, Christmas pop-up shop. And everybody else who's in there is a little bit floaty light and this kind of personality. But when folks started nicking stuff out of the shop, none of them knew what to do. So me being me, I'm like, hey, over here. Come and talk to me. So I became shop security. And then one time, one of the skinny little blonde lasses had to go and put the bins out right through the back. Now, we're on the first floor level of the shopping centre. So you're behind the scenes going down 2 floor levels, effectively 3 floor levels, to get to where the hopper is, the rubbish crusher, as they say. And she comes running back up the stairs, screaming her head off. And I'm like, what's wrong? She's like, the box came off the top of the pile. I'm like, well, yeah, you're going downstairs. She's like, no, the box came upstairs behind me. So it fell up the stairs over her head. And I'm like, right, okay. And I went out, and the people I worked with at that point didn't know I had wiggy bits, as I call them usually. So I went and had a wander around that bit, wandered down towards the hopper, and I got about halfway there, and I'm like, oh, okay. Nothing to see, but just this general menacing, icky feeling like somebody's right behind you, ready to grab you. So I'm like, right, if you're going to pick on anybody, you can pick on me, pick on somebody your own size, because I could tell it was somebody who was a big guy. And every other one in the shop didn't believe what I came back and told them. So they all had to go at putting the stuff in the hopper. None of them ever actually got to the hopper. So I ended up putting the bins out as well. Now I'm short. I'm only 5'4". So as I'm leaning in to put stuff in the hopper, and of course we've all got that line on the inside, fill to here. Well, one of the lights above it had gone, so you couldn't see where the line is. So I'm leaning in. At which point somebody grabbed my ankles and started tipping me up the way. Good job at that point. I was in a position where I could hook one leg around the side of the machine and hold on with my arms. Otherwise, I would have been in there head first. And I turned around calling them all the F's, B's and C's you can think of and a few extra. And there's nobody there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I know I said you can pick on me, but that's cheating. If you're picking on me, it's 1-to-1. It's not using a machine.
That's very physical, isn't it?
And that was the last I had of it. After that, I only had the sensation of being watched from the end of the
Was this a very old building? Was there a history to the building? Or
1904.
All right.
1904, so it's not that old a building, but as I say, it's on the site of what would have been the grass markets, the hay markets for Elgin back in the day. Right. But the current building was 1904. It was changed and rearranged internally. The shopping centre was basically, you know, when they build a box inside the original frontage because they can't change the outside. Yeah. That's what they had done.
Right.
And the bits where you had to go to take the rubbish out, you were going through that corridor that was between.
It was like a portal sort of thing.
Yeah. Effectively, it's one of them tween spaces because you're between the modern bit and the old bit. And I never found out what this thing is, but it was male, it was quite big, and it obviously enjoyed intimidating females, and it nearly threw me in the hopper.
Was there any history of, I know in these sort of areas in Edinburgh, there's usually a history of it being like an execution place, a place of execution, hanging, you know, the toll booth or...
No, not there. It wasn't far away from the toll booth in one of the earlier hanging spots, but of course the whole of the high street in Elgin was the town cemetery for 700 years. So it's about 150 feet from the edge of the cemetery. So
that was Carol was saying about the shopping centre in Norwich.
Yeah, I've worked at a few places that were haunted. One is over Burnley way towards the end of the M65, place called Kirk's at the time. Quite a modern building. It's only been up since I think it was the 70s, late 70s. Just a typical modern building. Steel construction, blockwork walls and all the rest of it. We were doing tanks, you know, the water tanks and that you get on basically water treatment plants. We did all the tanks and everything, and we did the fabrication for some of it. We had a workshop area, and it used to be an old furniture warehouse. Don't know whether that had anything to do with it, but we had an upstairs offices that were split. You had what used to be the showroom area and a back section which was all the old offices. We had our offices in the workshop area. Didn't think anything of it. And the first time I went into the back offices, I got, there's something not right here. The difference in feeling from walking from one side of the building to the other was totally, it was unreal. And I'm fairly receptive to these things. And I knew as soon as I walked through that I was being watched by something. We had our PPE stores in there, and it was my job to actually clear it and make sure everything was well stocked up and everything. And quite often I'd go in there having set it all out and tidied it all up and find everything thrown around the room. It did not like anyone going in that side of the building. Quite a lot of the staff, certainly the female staff, refused to go in there. But the main activity tended to be in the workshop. You had a mezzanine floor. Again, it was split into two different areas, but we had mezzanine floor on one. All the usual tools you'd expect in metalworking, lathes, stuff like that. And we had a poltergeist. You'd be stood, and all of a sudden a bolt would come flying out from nowhere. And with it all being metal sheets and everything, it made a hell of a racket. The first time it happened to me, I thought it was someone taking a mick. But there was no one in the workshop at the time. I went and had a look round, and the manager who worked there, one of the managers who worked there, he used to go and do work in there on his own at night. And he said quite often you'd hear things being thrown around. And bear in mind, some of the sheets were something like 8x4 sheets of steel.
That could be quite dangerous then, couldn't
Quarter
it?
of a quarter of a
Like that
quarter
flying
of an
about,
inch
it's not
thick.
good.
Yeah, you're losing an arm if that hits you.
Yeah, they weren't thrown through the air, but you'd go in and find it the other side of the room. It had been shifted, they'd been pushed over. He'd hear the machines running and go in, and the machine had stopped, and there was nothing there. I did a couple of sessions, call-out sessions on my own when there was no one with me. Never got anything, but my recordings, when I tried doing EVP recordings, they actually stopped the machine. It would not record. I couldn't take photos in there at certain times. Tried taking photos with my phone, tried taking my camera in, taking photos. But whenever I did that, I knew full well it didn't like me being there. Because it really was a sense of oppression.
And did you ever get any indication as to what the cause was?
Absolutely nothing. With the manager, we spent a day going through the history of the land. It wasn't built on any previous thing that we could find. It had all been open fields previously. Could not find any history or any reason for it happening. We left those premises, and as we were going, we were clearing everything out, and I got talking to some of the neighbours. They're doing a lot of forging work and stuff like that, and they said they've never had anything in their part of the building, but they have quite often heard things coming from what was our side of the building. And they said they'd see lights coming on when they knew there was no one in. But it never, ever let us know who it was. Like I say, I tried doing sessions myself. I offered to stay behind with the manager, and he refused point blank. So the lads refused to come back if they were ever coming back at night.
So do you think it was a residual kind of situation with there not being any sort of communication with you at all? Do you think
it was definitely not residual.
No.
It was whatever it was not nice, wasn't pleasant. Whether it was a person, they just didn't want us in the building at all.
So there was a malevolent kind of
there was definitely like I say, I knew full well the first time I ever walked in to the back offices.
Quite menacing, trying to get you out.
Yeah. Yeah. It was trying to scare people. Like I say, it was throwing things around in the actual shed itself, the workshop.
Without wishing to come forward and identify who they were or why,
like I said, when I did try doing the sessions and try getting it to come out and let me know who it was or what it was, it just blanked the machine. It wouldn't let me, like I say, it wouldn't let me take photos. It stopped me recording.
I had that same issue in a building I tried.
It wouldn't tried. I actually went in and tried saging the place and trying to calm it down, which worked for about a day. And then when I went in, like I said, my PPE store, which I had the keys for, I went in and it had been absolutely wrecked. So
you worked in then?
Do you find that quite worrying, quite disturbing that there's that kind of activity taking place and you don't know who it is or why? It's the uncertainty of knowing why the activity is taking place. But you can't deal with it because you have absolutely no idea of the whys.
And that was the thing. I mean, I'm fairly immune to that sort of thing anyway. I can feel the presence. I know there's something there. I don't see things, but some of the lads have mentioned shadows.
Right.
And
it's kind of easy to come to terms with things if you have an idea of what it is you're dealing with, though, isn't it?
That's it. Like I said, we couldn't find any reason at all. It's not like it was built on an old school or an old workhouse or anything like that. It had all, up until the buildings were built, we went back to the early 1800s. It had just been open fields. There was absolutely no reason for it. And it would not communicate in any other way than making people feel uncomfortable and throwing things around.
And do you have any idea if that situation is ongoing?
I've no idea, because I've never been able to go back there. When we left, we moved into the centre of Blackburn. And it is a private estate. So I couldn't get back in there. It was one of them things. Like I say, I've worked in a few places that were haunted, but that was definitely the most intriguing.
On Carl's point about an entire street having the same activity, when you do a deep dive online, you can find almost every council in the UK has had at least one report of like half a street having activity through several houses. So I had a case recently. At the moment, it's just one house, but the neighbours had started complaining about the noises coming from their house when nobody was in. So I got shouted. Now, obviously, with it being a family case, I'm not going to say who or exactly where, but the husband's been dragged by his foot and thrown out of bed, and I do mean thrown. He was bounced off a wall 4.5 feet away from the bed. The wife's had scratches. Every time the wife gets in the shower, somebody opens the door, opens the shower curtain, or switches the water heater off for the shower, something or other to get her to come out of the shower, obviously naked as papered. And when she's put everything back as it should be and she goes back into her shower, last word she says before she shuts the shower is F off, basically. She's had scratches, hubby's had scratches, there's pounding and banging all through the house, and their child has started being affected. So I went through to do the house. Now, the person said to me, "It's an old house." You don't say that to somebody who works in medieval buildings. Because I pulled up to that place and I'm older than their house is.
Age is relative, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. Especially when you're talking about buildings. I mean, folk think my house is relatively new council house. It's not. It was built in the 1920s. But hey ho, theirs was built in the 70s, late 70s at that. And because there are other complications to this case that involve different nationalities, different religions, I had taken everything I could think of for smudge stuff. I even asked Joe for some advice on some stuff, because one of the nationalities involved is people that he's had connections with in the past. And I arrived at 11:15 in the morning. It's only a 3-bedroom house. By the time I finished it and got back in the car to go home, it was 6:15. I'm surprised the neighbours' smoke alarms didn't go off. Theirs didn't, because I had pre-warned them to wrap them up or disconnect them. And the smoke alarms were all well wrapped up and bodge taped to hell and back when I arrived. So, but we smudged the house that much, the young lad ended up coughing. So then we smudged the people too. And I can now report a full week, the first week ever, they've had no activity for the entire week.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
When I was going through the house, there was a confused old lady by the door. I presume dementia symptoms, because she really didn't know what was going on. She's not stuck now, but she was stuck when I arrived. But she's not stuck now, and he's told me he's seen her a couple of times, like coming down the street towards the house, but he doesn't see her coming in the house. And I'm like, well, she's not been banished. And there was a wee boy. You know how when you've got a staircase that goes in a corner, you've got that banister bitty in the middle, the newel post, and everybody hangs their jackets on it. Well, every time I came past that, here's the newel post with the jackets on it, and every time I came past it, you get a little peekaboo. And then they would hide. That was a wee boy. The negative thing that had been portraying itself as something really nasty that comes with a D letter wasn't.
Usually isn't.
It was a grumpy old alcoholic who choked in his sleep. It was hiding in the little lad's wardrobe.
And so it was disgruntled rather than demonic.
Disgruntled rather than demonic.
And happens more often than not.
No. I hate that.
I actually called the father up to the room, and I'm like, so that we could have the conversation without the kid hearing. Right. Anybody in the house drink? No, we're all teetotal. Right.
Boring.
And your kid definitely doesn't drink because he's way too young. And he's like, no, that's right. I says, right. I says, open that cupboard and have a smell. I'd already stuck my head in the wardrobe. And it's like taking the lid off a bottle of whiskey and going that. As soon as I opened the wardrobe, I'm like, there you are, you grumpy owl.
And had the family never noticed this smell, or was it only you that could smell it?
They'd never noticed it before, but they knew there was something about that wardrobe because, like, the lad would be upstairs playing in his room, and then it'd go all quiet. And you know, when you've got a neurodivergent kid, when it goes all quiet, it could be really good or really bad. So they went up to check. And like, say that my kitchen door is the wardrobe door. The kid's just there. Totally immobile. Totally unresponsive. Completely transfixed on the doorway. And there'd been a couple of times they found him completely transfixed with the knife block in the kitchen. Which is when I got a phone call. But they've had a full week of nothing happening, nothing being heard, seen, felt, and the kid is just being a kid this week. So I'm chuffed.
That's very, very similar to a private case we had 2 or 3 years ago in the Broomhouse area of Edinburgh, and it was a house that must have been early 40s, and they lived in had been converted into flats, upstairs and downstairs. And they were in the upper flat, but they had then converted the attic space into bedrooms. So they had the top floor, but then they had the attic had been converted. And they had 2 autistic children. Emily, who was completely non-communicative, and Emily's now 9, so she would have been about 7 at the time. And the older girl was autistic, but not quite so bad. You know, she communicated, she was functioning, whereas Emily wasn't really. And we think it was Emily's that was attracting a lot of poltergeist activity, but it was very similar. It was in her bedroom. What used to happen was her bedroom door used to slam shut. And nobody could get in or out, and Emily would be screaming and nobody could open this door, and then all of a sudden it would open, And she had a big walk-in closet in her bedroom, and she would stand there, just looking and making noises, and as if she was communicating with something that wasn't there. And then down in the living area, if you were sitting in the living room, all you could hear was, like, we heard it regular, like somebody was dragging big heavy furniture.
Yeah.
And there was nobody else there. We were all downstairs. And then worryingly, this is where the similarity is as well. The kitchen was off the living room and the door was open. She used to keep all the doors open because of Emily, coming in and out. She would get quite nerve jumpy about closed doors with what was happening to her. And while we were sitting there, the drawer opened, the kitchen, drawer opened, and all this cutlery came flying out. Well, we were sitting there and we saw it all. We picked up an EVP later. We didn't hear it at the time after we analysed the audio, and we got a man's voice saying, "Everything I own is here," which was quite unusual.
Oh, poor bugger.
So we think it must have been someone who had occupied the building at some point in the past. Yeah. They've moved on, unfortunately, so we were hoping to go back and develop upon, what we had found. But they moved.
See, that's the thing that annoys me sometimes when I get called out to be at houses or places of work or whatever. The investigator in me wants to spend a few days questions and learning what I can, and then going, right, out the door you go. But the more human side of me automatically goes, these folk are suffering, let's just get this thing
rid of them now.
And that's what I do. And I always think I should have just let them hang around a couple of days and ask questions, but then that wouldn't be fair on the families.
Well, our plan was to actually go and stay in the weekend. They were going on holiday, and we were going to move in for the weekend and live in the place. Then they were offered alternative accommodation, and they took it, so we never got the chance.
Yeah.
But it was interesting. You hear this story time and time again. Any kind of autistic.
That's what I was going to say.
Act as a conduit, doesn't it?
Yeah. The faithful of whatever denomination you want to have will tell you that addiction and mental illness, etc., 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 are all doorways to attract in the nasties. But neurodivergent attracts them in as well, purely because they function on a different frequency to the rest of us.
Totally different wavelength.
Seems to be a little bit closer to theirs, so they can go, that kid can understand me, and they start hanging around the kid.
Yeah,
you see it a lot.
It's like we've said before. It's frequencies, energies.
Something akin to the cat looking at something that's not there, isn't it?
Yeah,
it is. That's the thing, that our range of hearing isn't brilliant. Our vision spectrum is tiny compared with other animals and everything. So who's to say there's not other areas, the animals and that, kids, especially neurodivergent, like you said, because they are operating on a different frequency.
Yeah.
That they can Carl, on that message you've got posted right there, Harry may not differentiate between something he sees and something that we all see as well. He may be seeing them, but they look like they're just a person standing there.
Yeah. Well, like I said, the two that I know for definite I have seen were as solid as any other person and as close to me as well, they were within a foot of me.
I've seen them in different states.
Within a foot of me, and anyone else seeing them would have just thought they were another human.
I've seen them solid as a person. I've seen them speckled like static. I've seen them standing there, and parts of them are flipping black and white, and just kind of like static little triangles flipping black and white. I've seen pieces. where it's just an arm coming out.
Yep.
I've
I've actually got a photo of one of them. It's just an arm leaning on the balcony railing, but there's nothing attached to it.
Yeah. I love them.
Unfortunately, I don't usually see.
Carl,
I know they're there, but I don't see.
Do you know, that was something like Carl, I asked a question earlier about, do you get most activity when it's unexpected, when you're not looking? And invariably you do.
In lesser known
interestingly, the times that I've actually witnessed a full state, a full-bodied apparition, I didn't realize at the time that that's what it was. Several times, I think I've mentioned this maybe here before, I can't remember.
A lot of the time when you're you're having a laugh and a joke and carrying on, because
even when you're not investigating
the atmosphere, it makes stuff more.
It does, But even on occasions where I've just not been investigating, there was several occasions. Once was at the Maid's Head, which is an old medieval hotel in Norwich. It was an office Christmas meal, and I'd gone to the loo, and I came across this sort of lady in like a serving wench sort of outfit and everything. And I thought, I didn't know there was people dressed up. And we sort of mentioned it to the staff. Well, no, there isn't. And apparently this person has been seen quite regular. So I didn't. I passed and I smiled to her, and she smiled back. And I didn't realize. So you see things you don't even know that they're apparitions.
I've got a story that fits nicely with that one, but I think it's.
I was going to say we've said this before, though.
Yes, Carl.
Because you see them as human.
You don't think of it.
You don't, unless you know for the fact, like I did. One of them was my granny, the other was a mate's uncle, who had been altered by his funeral a few months earlier. That's how I knew they were.
So you knew who they were.
My granny was sat on the bottom of my brother's bed trying to calm my brother down because he was upset. It was the night she died.
Oh, and she'd come back.
For years, I never even gave it a thought that she was a ghost. She looked at me and just nodded and said, "I'm okay."
Oh, nice.
Okay, and I went back to sleep. I never even thought of it as a ghost for years.
Carl,
I've done that, Carl. I've booked into a hotel and the staff have told me, "Oh, you're booked into the most haunted room." Oh, cool.
Nothing happened.
Absolutely nothing happened.
I did that in Jerome, Arizona. We weren't at the big hotel on the hill, but we were at the second most haunted hotel in town, and I got the most haunted room. I could hear footsteps during the night, but it wasn't very heavy. And being a hotel in the busy season, where those footsteps coming from, I was on the upper floor, but it's an old hotel, all made of wood. So people are walking around. It was hard to say, but I didn't get any feeling or anything at all. Other people tell me, "Oh my God, it was really active," and I'm like, "Sorry, I didn't know this."
Only thing I had mine.
I did an investigation at St. Bravel's Castle, which is where King John spent a lot of his time down Gloucestershire way. And we had an awful lot of activity that night. And I was staying in the room that was his bedroom. I was supposed to be sharing it with 3 other people who didn't turn up. And they'd set up all sorts of towels in there. They set up a camera, set up the cat balls and stuff like that. And apparently there was an awful lot of activity going on in there during the night, and they kept showing us on the cameras, this is happening. And I got to bed about 4 o'clock that morning, and I walked in. I said, "Do your worst, I'm going to sleep." And I had the most peaceful night's sleep. There was nothing at all happened while I was in that room, but it had all been going off while I wasn't.
We had one, the one where I was told I was in the most haunted room. I had a dream a dream that I'd come to, and there was a dude in a pinstripe suit, 40 style, with the wee fedora and the big shooters and the nipped in waist. Stood in the corner of the room looking at me, and I just told him to off and rolled over and went back to sleep. I was dreaming this. And over breakfast, the lassie's like, so how did you sleep? Did you meet the ghost? And blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't think so. I said, who's the ghost? And she's like, oh, it's a man in a pinstripe suit. And then I went, not while I was awake, but I might have met him while I was dreaming.
Carl asked that question. Do you find locations that are lesser known or have no haunted history, are they better for activity? And in some cases, yes. There are places that I've been. There was a house along the railroad tracks in a very small town in California. We got called to. This lady was having all sorts of difficulties. She was 8 months pregnant, and there was a lot of stuff going on in the house, and she was having a hard time with it. It used to be like a railroad worker's home. They were there. They would switch the tracks, and they would do that kind of stuff, and that's where they lived. So they had to be out, scheduled to do their thing, whatever they needed to do. But now it's a rental, and this family was renting it. And it was quite haunted. And as far as we knew, it's never been investigated before. And there was a boy, probably 16, in the house that we couldn't place, but we kept trying to, get him to tell us where he was. He said, do you want to cross over? Do you need help? Do you want to, get out of here? And he'd go, yes, yes, yes. And then as soon as we'd start doing it, he would go away and we'd find him in another room. And he was just all over the place. And every time we tried to do something, he would go someplace else. And so it's like, do you really want to do this or not? And then we found out later, I went back a couple of days later when they weren't at home. And I just stood in the front against the fence in the street. I wasn't even at the house or on their property. I was just on the pavement. And I had my dowsing rods out, and they said, okay, so you want to leave? Dowsing rods went, yes. I said, where are you? And the rods pointed over toward Elephant Mountain, which was straight ahead of us. So I said, well, okay, let's go. So we jumped in the truck, and we went over to that direction, and Tim was with me, and we'd stop every once in a while and get the rods and get directions where we need to go. And we found out when we got there, we had to climb up the hill a bit and go into this area. We found out that there used to be an old mine back in that area, and it had collapsed at a time. And we think the kid was exploring the mine and it collapsed on him. And so we helped him cross over and everything at that point. Nobody's had any problems since.
So his remains were still trapped.
Yes, they were still trapped. We reported it. We said it's very possible that this is there. And they said, there's no way in the world we'd be able to get back there, without causing trouble. We don't know how far back he is. And the area was, earthquakes and everything in California. It's hard to say.
Oh, yeah.
But they just said we won't be able to get back there. And supposedly he died in the 30s. So, who knows? But that's what we picked up. That's what our medium told us. And that's what we could pick up, using the rods and stuff. So,
and was there documentation about the accident and who had been? No,
because the mine was old. There was no documentation about it other than the mine had closed down. And apparently he had gone down there exploring, walking in the mine or crawling in the mine, and it collapsed. And that was it. At least that's the story that we received. I don't know how true it is. There was no missing persons, at all that covered any of that.
You seem to have quite a lot of that in California, don't you? These old mine workings, the old prospectors and everything, leaving things in quite a dangerous condition.
Yeah. Carl also said something about my background here that I've got from Roy's Motel and Cafe. Roy's is an interesting story. There's the only hauntings about Roy's is that on occasion you'll be driving down the highway in the night and somebody will step out in front of you. And they aren't really there, they're a spirit. But they'll step out or there'll be somebody hitchhiking on the side of the road, thumb out, ready to go, doing their thing. and you'll stop, or you look back and there's nobody there anymore. Or you'll stop and you look back and there's nobody standing there. So that's the stories that go on there. But Amboy is the name of this town that Roy's is in. And it was along Route 66, the infamous Route 66, which eventually became I-40, Interstate 40. But they didn't bring Interstate 40 down far enough to hit Amboy. It's north, like quite a bit north. So when they built I-40 north of Amboy, the town just sort of turned into a ghost town. Not a whole lot going on there. The school eventually closed. The motel eventually collapsed. It's just old. Here, I got a couple of pictures here. I'll pop them up here. I know Carl's been waiting to do some picture work. Let's see. Here's the school. Here's the motel.
Oh, right. Looks like a film set, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's been used. It's been used quite a bit for films. I don't know which films have been there.
Some zombie film.
But I wanted to very much, and then here's a good picture of the Roy's. But I wanted to go investigate the school, but I couldn't get a hold of anybody to, let us in. It's padlocked, and I'm not about to go jumping fences and stuff and get in a lot of trouble. So, but these are the little motel rooms that you've got there, and they're all empty. Apparently, the new owner of the place, or the latest owner, is Albert Okura. He's the guy that owns the fast food chain Juan Pollo in California. He bought the whole town. So he's gone in and redone all the neon for the big sign right there. They've got the restaurant is open, or the cafe inside is open, kind of a diner setup. The gas station is open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. But you don't know if it's really going to be open or not, that kind of thing. So there's not that much activity. Across the street, there's strangely enough, there's an old volcanic crater. Let me see if I can grab a picture of that. I meant to. Volcanic crater, Amboy. But it's kind of interesting. Just sort of sits out in the middle of no place. There we go. That's a better picture. But just right across the street is this volcanic crater that just sort of sits there. Let me put it up. And there it is. But yeah, you're just going along in this desert, and then all of a sudden, there's this crater. But there have been a few movies.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Yeah. You're just driving along, and all of a sudden, there it is, and it's an actual volcanic crater. I don't know when the last time it erupted was, but that's it. You can go hiking up and stuff.
Like is this in the middle of?
Yeah.
That's in the desert, yeah.
A touch of the Close Encounters about that one, isn't there?
Yeah. Amboy's just right there, so you can stand in Roy's parking lot and look out and see that. Just sort of stand there. But the place Albert's trying to reopen the town a little bit at a time. So all these bright neon lights that you can see behind me, those all he had all the neon tubes rebent and redone so he could turn it all on. He had a big lighting ceremony. The gas station's open, the restaurant's open, except the restaurant probably won't be open in the middle of the summer, and it's 115 degrees Fahrenheit, 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Probably won't be. Kind of like the Opera House in
the one you
Junction, Death Valley Junction. You won't see that restaurant open in the middle of the day there. So you have to go 7 miles to the casino on the state line, in Nevada state line, to get any food. Food's good there though, not bad at all. But it's Amboy's just a neat little town. Ghosts walk out on you while you're driving along, hitchhiking, that kind of thing. And I've heard the school is haunted. but I've never been able to get in. And we've tried a couple of times to try to get into the school, get permission, but never did, never got a chance to. But that whole area up there, the Mojave Desert, it probably would be. It's pitch black.
Yeah.
It is pitch black out there. If you can get them to turn the neons off, it's even better. But yeah, you're kind of in a valley. I-40 is north of you. I-62 goes down through, or Route 62 goes down toward Palm Springs, that direction. But other than that, you've got nothing. You know, the nearest town I think is Kelso. So there's not a whole lot of anything going on there. It's just middle of no place.
You seem to get a lot of that. I mean, the old Route 66 has a lot of ghost towns when they put the freeway through.
Yes. There's a place along the old Route 66.
Whole communities, didn't it?
Yeah. There was a place called Two Guns in Arizona. And
there's a story behind that, isn't there?
Yeah. But Two Guns is supposedly cursed. So there's a place called the Apache Death Cave. I've mentioned it on a previous podcast, but a place that's an actual cave underground there they call the Apache Death Cave. The story goes that the Apaches came up from southern Arizona, up into Navajo Hopi land up in that area, came up and they attacked a couple of the villages and wiped them out, kidnapped some people, and that was it. So Navajo are going, what the heck is going on here? So he started trying to find out where where these attackers are. And as they're going along, they one of the braves is riding his horse along, and he sees a little smoke, not a whole lot, but a little bit coming up from a hole in the ground. And he goes over and puts his ear down there, and he hears people whispering down below. So he's like, okay. So he goes and he gets his friends, and they all show up and they investigate. And there's the mouth of the cave is down there. I've been down there several times. Really cool. Feels like you're in Grand Central Station with everybody standing around you, and you're the only one in the place. It's really cool. But they went and they threw a whole bunch of green wood, brush, and all sorts of stuff down at the mouth of the cave, and they caught it on fire to smoke all these people out. They were trying to smoke the Apaches out. And some of them died of smoke inhalation. Others were shot as they came out, running out of the cave. So they got them all. But supposedly that's what caused part of the curse on the land, that this happened. So anybody that started a business, there was a KOA campground there for a while. It went out of business. There was a zoo and a gas station and a couple of stores and shops and a motel and all sorts of things over the years from about the 1890s up until the 70s. Everything that they had failed. You know, nothing, it's just a falling apart ghost town. You can see parts of buildings. The swimming pool that was at the KOA has been skateboarded in quite a bit. There's graffiti all over the place. The gas station's graffiti. There's a lot of interesting stuff there. But
all these sort of little ghost town, all these little things you see in the States, they seem to have sprung up around areas where prospectors were, weren't they? The old mines and such like. And then the communities grew, and then the gold reserves disappeared, and then the town died. But there must have been, as you say, conflict between any native, the indigenous population, and you read about all the shootouts and the trouble that went on during the times of the prospectors. So it's not surprising. There must be quite a lot of angst left behind in these areas.
Yeah, there's a lot of history like that. But Route 66 was America's highway. It was really the only highway that ran directly from Chicago to LA. People could get to Chicago easy on the train or whatever, and if you're going to drive, you take Route 66 all the way across. Well, people would build something because people would need gas, and people would need to stock up on stuff, and they'd build their little villages or their little towns at certain distances from each other all the way along.
You stick that floater up, Carl. please.
But yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff going on. And when they built the I-40 to replace the Route 66, it skipped a lot of these towns. It caused a lot of places. That's two guns.
That's two guns.
And this area,
Apache Death Cave, isn't it?
yeah, it's just south, it's just below that building that you see sort of center. You can walk down there. There's a little bridge. Last time I was there, the bridge was intact, and you see a ramp that you just walk down, and you walk back under that, and you go back along the little. I know you can't see what I'm pointing at, but if you look to the left of that little house there, you can see there's a couple of little indentations or dark spots. That's letting a little bit of light in until you get back a little farther, and then it's pitch black in those caves. You know, you've got this little tunnel that you're going through, and then you go to the right or go to the left, and then it's pitch black back there. You need light to be able to see, or you're going to trip and fall right on your nose. Mm-hmm. But that is such a neat place to go. Mm-hmm. But that house right there. There's a place that was a general store. There was a zoo at one time that had a lot of desert animals in there. I mean, it's pretty cool. And then there was a few murders in the town. There's a lot of interesting stuff that happened there. Two Guns is really cool. I lived in Phoenix at the time that I went to drive up there, and it's an hour and a half, hour 45 minutes to get up there from Phoenix. And if you're driving pretty quick, and it's quite interesting. I went up there with my RV and camped out there for a day or two, and just enjoyed it. Going in and out of the Apache Death Cave all times of the day and night to see if it changed at all. Walking around in some of the buildings and some of the stuff, and it was absolutely.
It'd be interesting to find out who the two guns were.
Well, there was a guy. And I don't remember his name. Just a second, I'll find it for you. But that was part of his name. He, oh, come on. That was part of his name. He had, oh, come on. Located east rim of the Diablo Canyon, east of Flagstaff. Two Guns was established as a settlement. The construction of the Santa Fe Railroad was progressing in northern Arizona. Two Guns, Canyon Diablo, 4 men employed by the Hash Knife Ranch robbed the train at Diablo Canyon. Yep, and then fled on horseback with $100,000 in currency. So the settlement, Harry E. Miller was there, and he called himself Chief Crazy Thunder. That was what he called himself. And then
I've just got the scene from Blazing Saddles in my head.
Miller, he rented some land from Earl and Louise Cundiff. They had 320 acres, 130 hectares of land there. And Harry E. Miller leased property from them in 1925 and began extensive construction. He's the one that built the zoo. He's the one that built, there was a shop that he had, an Indian gift shop. And he was selling Apache skulls that they found inside the cave. They were selling the skulls that they found as souvenirs. For a few visitors were led on a tour that began at the Hopi house that Miller had built, where rows of colored peaky bread were made and sold. I mean, it was a great place. He called it Fort Two Guns.
Interesting times, aren't they?
Oh, believe me, I would have loved to have been there just to see these people. It would have been so cool. But
have you ever been to the bird cage
in Tombstone?
Have you been there?
Oh, yeah.
Was that active? I mean, I've only seen it on TV, obviously, but
it's very active. It's very active. It's a great place. In fact, Tombstone is pretty darn active most anywhere you go in town. There's a lot of stuff going on there.
And do you
A
think
lot of
that's
people
because
died there.
of the unrest and the history?
Right. Yeah. It's because of the history, and the mines are flooded now. There was an earthquake and flooded the mines, so that became nothing. Tucson started collapsing as a city, sort of becoming a ghost town, and they decided, oh, let's see if we can turn this into something that people want to come and see. So, of course, the fame of the gunfight at the OK Corral, things like that, they brought that up again, and they started talking about it. The OK Corral is nowhere near the OK Corral that they have set up. It's like, it's a little ways away from here, but it was convenient to put it there. So they put it there. In Boot Hill Cemetery, I've heard, but I haven't found absolute proof yet, but I've heard that the real cemetery is on one side of town, and the cemetery that they send tourists to is on the other side of town. That way, you're not destroying the original cemetery.
Right.
I've heard that. Right. That's true.
Just look at the hassle that they've had at Culloden.
Mm-hmm.
The Fraser marker at Culloden. Since Outlander, they've had to shore up the land around it. They had to seal
it. Barricades up, didn't they, to stop people going on it?
Yeah, they had to seal it off for, I think it was about 7-8 months. It was sealed off to let the ground recover. And it's like, come on, folks, it's an imaginary person, for goodness sake. It's like someone's going to the Titanic cemetery looking for Jack.
It seems to be the same all over Scotland, though, Linda. They've all these Outlander tours and everything, aren't they? And
they could swim down and see if he's still there.
Did you see the meme that was out a little while ago? Right, I saw it a little while ago, and they've got Jack from Titanic, a picture of him. They said, this is what Jack would look like at age 62 or whatever. They're showing Leo DiCaprio in a suit. It's like taking Leo DiCaprio from the Titanic and putting him in a suit. It's like, here's what Jack looks like if he would have lived.
It's okay.
People will believe it.
Well, the tourist industry leaves a lot to be desired at times.
Yeah. Speaking of Culloden, you would have that one. Right. We're going to go to Aberdeen. I'm going to put up some other photos to set the scene. This is the person concerned, but I have some other photos to give location. Now,
that's somebody only a mother could love.
Yeah. Notice the dog
someone I used to work with.
Now, there's a couple of photos. That's where it was. In fact, if you see just to the left, you see how you can almost make out the Starbucks logo in the window? Well, we had been at the hospital all day for various tests for me, as in we got there at 7:30 in the morning. By now it's 2:00 in the afternoon. I finally got free. So we went downtown, got to the Starbucks at the side of the Nicholas Centre, and I was busting for the loo by the time you'd walked down to the hospital. So now their loos in that particular Starbucks are below ground level. So you go in the shop to the back, take a left, go down about 2 flights of stairs, and you're going further left, which effectively means you're underneath the church. So I'm sitting there, and it's the first time I'd ever been in a Starbucks, so I didn't have a clue what to order. So I'm sitting there thinking about what I might order. Well, I'd never had a caramel latte up to that day, and I never got one that day because, hey up, Elsa, come on, because you're going to jump when I do this, and I don't want you sinking your claws in me. So I'm sitting there contemplating what I might order in this coffee shop because I've never been to this kind of coffee shop before. And as I'm sitting there, that dude, if you can pop him back up, stuck his head through the door of the cubicle
Oh, lovely.
And went, "Get out!" Suffice to say, I was sitting in the correct place.
I'm tempted to say, I bet you shit yourself.
I was going to say you were in the right place.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, we're going to finish up what the hell we're doing. And all I remembered was the face, which is why it took me 2 hours to find an image. And in effect, I had to get Carl to alter that one for me. So that was as close as I could remember to the guy. And I finished what I was doing. I got up and I got to the counter and Mum's like, "What you having?" I'm like, "Nothing," and walked out the door. So, being the history geek that I am, I did a bit of research. Before the guy appeared, I'm listening to somebody greeting, crying. And you know yourself, Eileen, in every ladies' public toilet, there's usually one person sitting crying.
There's always somebody greeting.
Aye.
Carl knows that too.
Yeah. There's always somebody greeting. And I'm sitting there going, "Are you okay? Do you want to talk or do you want me to leave you in peace?" And then this guy came through the cubicle door. And all of a sudden she stops crying. I'm like, okay. Now, while I was finishing up, I never heard any of the cubicle doors open, close, or the main door open and close, or footsteps or anything. So whoever had been in the cubicle next to me sitting crying must have still been there, right? The cubicles were all empty. Did a bit of digging, history-wise. Turns out one of the ministers of said church, I think it has to be 1700s, maybe 1600s. Sorry, Carl. Although it's you that should be apologising. So, late 16s, early 1700s, one of the ministers had caught a girl in a way he shouldn't have caught the girl. And he made her pregnant. And she was a girl. She was 14. Made her pregnant. Couldn't afford to have the scandal put out because late 1600s, early 1700s, not long after the Reformation, it's all about the appearance of the power of the church. That wee girl was held prisoner in the basement of the church, in the crypts. She had the child. Once the child was born, he killed her and announced to the world that he found the baby on the doorstep of the church one morning.
Do you know, you wonder how often that happened, eh?
Probably quite a bit.
There was
the fact that I was thinking it was human. Are you okay? Can I help? Do you just want me to leave you in peace? What can I do? And then he obviously saw me as interfering and told me to get out rather loudly. My ears were actually ringing. It was that loud. And of course, we get us outside the cafe and Mum's like, "What the fuck?" I'm like, "I'll tell you in a minute. At the moment, I just need to walk away and have a fag." That was my introduction to that particular Starbucks. I haven't been back in. I don't even know if it's still there. A lot of the centres are shutting down now.
Do you think that negative energies like that tend to be more prolific than the benign?
Stronger.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's sheer anger and stubbornness. Sorry, my brain just decided to run them into one word. Anger, stubbornness, they didn't get their own way, so they're staying back and try to enforce that they get their own way.
Yeah, it's like most things. Negative energy tends to be more powerful than... You see someone walking who's very happy, you don't tend to pick up on it. You see someone who's ranting and raving, that energy's out there, that energy's what's being absorbed.
I've heard about that, Carl. Heard that story anyway.
That's interesting terminology, Carl. Horizontal
horizontal
refreshment.
refreshment. That's cool.
Well, it's like the building that I work in. There's a well, the building I used to work in, because I'm not in that one anymore. I'll put some photos in of it. There is a room in this particular building that they call the bishop's study. Why is it not showing me? There we go. So, but when you do a bit of digging and read contemporary reports, you find out the bishop's study. Well, the ladies visited every Friday.
Stud being the operative word.
Yeah, yeah. But I downloaded all these images for another story.
Where's that, Linda?
It's a building 5 miles away from me. And because we have problems with people breaking in, I'm technically not allowed to name it, but if you look carefully, you'll see on one of the other images where it is. But
so I arrived in Scotland.
Yes. I arrived at work one morning, and from the bus stop to the first gate is 3/4 of a mile. You open that gate, you go up another half mile, and you get to where the shop is. You open that gate, go and open up the shop. Once the shop's ready to rock, you go and open up the building. As I get to the gate, to the doorway of the big tower, I can hear modern music, like somebody's got their ghetto blaster going. That shows how old I am. And I'm like, there's nothing around us.
A whippersnapper.
Aye. There's nothing around us that I should be hearing a ghetto blaster. And just to show the point that there's nothing around us, I'm putting another 2 images in to show you the fact that there was nothing else around us. I mean, you can already see from the second picture I put in that there was a wee loch and lots of trees. Now, the other ones I've put in, I'll show you part of a map. Sorry, Carl, I know you're probably coughing your head off at the moment. So, as you can see by that image, there's nothing around it to be hearing a ghetto blaster from. Because you're in that building that's at the edge of the red arrow. And there's nothing there. And sheeps didn't carry ghetto blasters, and neither do pigs. So I'm all the way around the building looking for whoever's got their stereo going. There's nobody there. It's on that map there, and you can see by the loch which building it is. So, all the way through the building, there's a ghetto blaster. There's no ghetto blaster. But in certain parts of the building, it's louder. And it's like, wait a minute, what the hell's going on here? And you get up to the roof, and it's really loud on the roof. I've still no idea what the hell's going on. So I wrote it off, as you do. I can't explain it, so it's just a question mark. Carried on with the job. I'm cleaning the building. Now, because you're, as you saw, in the arse end of nowhere, with no neighbours, and you're the only in there, and you're somebody like me that can see and hear spirit, you tend to either have your own music on or be singing when you're cleaning the building. And when I say cleaning, I mean cleaning. All that woodies, you imagine how many pigeons biting all that woodies? Yeah. So I'm scrubbing away. And just so I didn't offend any potential visitors that might turn up, I'm singing Amazing Grace. And I heard the door of the tower open, so I stopped. Because I don't think my voice is any good, so I stopped singing. The voice that came in the tower door did the next 2 lines, but just as the sound, not as the lyrics. And I leaned over the balcony banister, and I'm like, oh, sorry, I'll be down in a minute. And I come running down to meet them. The door the door was shut, but I hadn't heard it shut again, you know. So whoever had come in was definitely still in. And then I thought, well, no, I must be imagining things. There's got to be somebody out and about. So I went all the way around the site and I went all the way back down to the car park. Not one living human being. So who hummed the next two lines of Amazing Grace when I had stopped? Again, sheep didn't sing or hum.
Was it female or male?
It was female.
Female.
I now know who it was, and she's been dead for about 600 years. So she shouldn't even know that song, but I suppose I've sung it often enough in that building. But nowadays, if I'm in that building and I feel the urge to sing, I tend to sing one that's of the time period of the building, so that if she wants to, she can join in. What I can tell you, one of the other things that she does, when we used to have weddings in that building, because you're the only one there, you're prepping the building for the wedding, but you're also running the shop. So anytime somebody turns up, you've got to stop what you're doing, run back to the shop, sort the customer out, and then come back across. So this one time I had just literally first fling of the tablecloth for the wedding table, and I hadn't straightened it, and I heard people talking. So I ran back to the shop, having left the tablecloth in an absolute heap. The two people I served in the shop are the only two there. I'm with them the entire time. And then I say to them, once they've gone into the grounds, I say, right, if you need me, I'm going to be in the tower for the next wee while. I'm prepping for a wedding this afternoon. I no bother. I went in, and I can hear the same female voice giving it no really discernible tune. And I looks over. The tablecloths on the wedding table, absolutely perfectly, hospital corners and everything. And the lecterns on top of it as well. There was only me and the other two visitors there. And there's no way in the time it took me to go in the little staff door and up into the tower, there's no way they could have walked all the way around the building to get into the tower before me.
So has this been an old housekeeper?
It's one of the maids. She's about 19 years old. She's got hip-length blonde hair, and it's in one single plait. A bit like, what's her face? Like Elsa from the Frozen movies, but about 10 years before the Frozen movie was invented. And she's ever such a nice lassie. Another one in that place, in the bishop's study, where he was studying anatomy rather than anything else.
You mean ladies with horizontal plan?
Yeah.
Partaking of horizontal refreshment.
Yes. Yeah, but he was a greedy boy because there was usually 5 turned up at a time.
Oh dear.
So I've cleaned up the stairs. I've gotten back down to that room. It's the last room to do before I do the main ground floor. And I get to that room, and I just got to the doorway, and I'll show you what I saw. Because just as I get to the doorway, there's an old wifey giving it, go on, shoo, get out, I'm here, go away. Presumably one of his cleaners cleaning up after his visit, because this was a Saturday morning. So she must have been clearing up after the Friday night mess. And she didn't like me being in there cleaning.
Why am I thinking Father Ted?
It's that kind of personality from Mrs. Doyle. It's like, I'll do it, go away.
Cup of tea.
But literally waving. It wasn't a tea towel. She was waving her apron at me. You know. Yeah.
Linda, I would love to be in your shoes for just a few
the bishop.
I've got one last little story, which is the high street. and then I will shut up and leave it for everybody else. Because I know we all have quite a few. The high street. One time, many, many years ago, that's where I was. One time, many, many years ago, I was in this next image, pretty much stood where the photograph is taken from. And there was two lads in their 20s doing like a mock-up reenactment of a sword fight in the middle of the flat bit. You see how you've got the statue in front of you, and then you've got
Is
the big...
that Elgin?
Aye, that's Elgin High Street.
Yeah.
So on the raised platform before the pillars, these two lads are mucking about doing a pretend sword fight, doing a historical reenactment, but in jeans and metal band t-shirts. But it was entertaining because they had their choreography correct. Now, see, if you look at the pillars, the last pillar on the right-hand side, just before you can see the gap to see down the street, the steps go down that side as well as coming down the front. And there was a wee manny stood there, you know, typical old manny with the old dusty old suit jacket and the Andy cap. And he's sitting there going, get on, get in there, and really enjoying this sword fight. And I says to my mum and my pal, I'm like, check a wee dude on the stairs. He's loving it.
We can't see him.
Neither one of them could see him. But I thought it was brilliant because he's like, go on, get in there. I've got loads of other stuff from personal experience, but I've talked enough. I'll shut up
What
now.
a confusing life you must lead at times.
When you've got a fever, like Carl at the moment running a fever, when you've got a fever, it is kind of difficult to tell who's got a pulse and who hasn't. But that's why I tend to stay in the house when I'm ill, and it's also why I don't drink.
You find yourself doing a double take sometimes, though. You haven't taken stock of what's happening.
I had a night out with a friend of mine who moved away about 11 years ago, and they came up, and it's like, right, long lunch. So we started at 12:30. By 9:30, 9:45, we're both kind of meshed. And I stood up to go to the loo. And I bumped into somebody without seeing them because, of course, I bumped into them backwards as I'm backing off from the table. Now, when I say I backed into him, I can tell you it's a man who had a very happy wife. Right? Because that's how hard I bumped into him. And he was a good bit taller than me, too. And I turned around, all apologies. Oh, I'm really sorry. I'm absolutely meshed. That was my fault and all the rest of it. And my pal's sitting there going, who the f are you talking to? I'm like, the dude stood there in full Highland dress. And she's like, have a think about what you just said. Aye, the dude in full Highland dress, he's about 6'2", 6'4". And she's like, no. There's nobody there. And while you go to the lobbies, I'll see you in a bit. Wash your face while you're through there, waking yourself up. Well, coming back to Outlander Series 2, when they send a message to Bonnie Prince Charlie at Thunderton House in Inverness, it's not in Inverness, Outlander fans. It's in Elgin. Yeah. And that's where me and my pal were sitting and had been drinking all day. And I had reversed rather fast and hard into a rather Highland soldier who obviously had a happy wife, shall we say.
No, you're being presumptive there.
Well, yeah.
He may have had a happy
He may have played for the other team.
It's hard to say.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, you know, just random silly things like that. It's like, yeah.
Oh dear.
All right, I'll shut up. It's lads now.
You told a story about the pregnant lady a little while ago. It's not, well, there's the Goldfield Hotel in Nevada,
Yeah.
south of Tonopah, north of Vegas. It's a partial ghost town. The people still live there. They've got their trailers, they got their stuff, and some people live there, but there's not a whole lot there anymore. But there's the old Goldfield Hotel, and there's a story that has a couple of different endings to it that I've heard. I don't know which one is right. I don't know which one is true. But a lady named Elizabeth supposedly had an affair with the owner of the hotel at the time, way back when it was built, back in the 1800s to early 1900s. And his name was Willette, I think. Let me see here. The haunt, Elizabeth. It says here that George Wingfield was his name, the owner of the hotel. But this Elizabeth had an affair with him. Mm-hmm. And he was one of the hotel's owners. And according to the lore, Elizabeth became pregnant. And to avoid a scandal, Wingfield supposedly chained her to the radiator in room 109.
Oh, I've heard that one.
Yeah, where she later died during childbirth or was left to starve. Mm-hmm. Skeptics question the authenticity of the story, of course, but, who knows?
Yeah, but it's effectively Wild West times. I mean, who's going to know?
Right, exactly. But 109 does have strange phenomena, the feeling of being watched, cold spots, that kind of stuff. But is that created by everybody expecting that to happen? Don't know. The other part of that story was that George came in when she had the baby. He took the baby down to the well in the basement and threw the baby down in the well.
Yeah, that's the version I heard.
Right. I've heard that version several times, but I've also heard that, she starved to death before she had the kid, et cetera, et cetera. I don't even know if there's a basement in that hotel, in the basement of that hotel.
Didn't Bill Bowen do a program?
Yeah, he took her flowers.
I was just going to say that the man in the tight T-shirt was there, and he took the spirit lady flowers, didn't he?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I just remember that story when you talked about that other one. I've driven past there. I couldn't, there was nobody there, so I couldn't get in and look around. But I've driven through Goldfield on my way up to Tonopah, and it's an interesting town, that's for darn sure.
There seems to be an awful lot of interesting places in that, in the States.
Oh yeah, there are. Well, there's a lot of places over here that are very cool.
But for a relatively new country, isn't it? There's an awful lot of
but when you think of how it was created, there's an awful lot of hostility.
Like set off running with your flag. That's mine.
All the history within Native Americans,
and the gold rushes and the mines
and everything.
The ranchers and the sheep farmers and the cow farmers. The ranchers, the different ranches, they're fighting over stuff because sheep will clip the grass when they eat way down right next to the earth, and it takes a lot longer for the grass to come up, so the cows can't eat because cows don't clip nearly as low. So the cow ranchers are mad at the sheep ranchers because they're eating all the grass and all the stuff. Started lots of fights, lots of wars. Yeah, but it was. I was just reading what Carl did, so of course my brain, one-eyed brain, so I can only do one thing at once. But the there's the history is crazy. A lot of violent history, the gunfights, things like that happened, which didn't happen as often as everyone seems to think it did. You didn't have a gunfight 6 times a day.
Hollywood's got a lot to answer for.
Coming back to the idea of people in costume, I've just thought of another one for the Thunderton house. back in the late 90s, not long before it closed, there was like a Victorian Christmas market in a town 20 miles away. And about 6 o'clock, this old lady in Victorian costume was spotted by the staff of the pub sitting in the corner of the room. And she was just quiet, kept to herself. And by the time it got to closing time, they noticed that drink was still on the table. And the lady wasn't there. And then they looked back 10 minutes later. The lady was sitting there again. They're like, okay. So it gets to closing time, and there's down to two lads. The rest of the staff have gone home. And they're like, oh, she's gone again. Did she leave? Oh, I didn't see her leave. Maybe she's in the toilets. And one of the lads went and opened the main door of the ladies' toilets and shouted hello. And he heard it like a rustling of fabric. So he's like, oh, there must be somebody still in there, presuming this old lady's still in there. And as I say, they both presumed she was one of the reenactors from the Victorian Christmas market 20 miles away, just on her way home. But she'd been sat there all night. She hadn't actually come up to the bar. So one of them went downstairs to do the bottling up for the end of the night, and the other one stayed on basically barroom level. And he's gone off and closed the gents' toilets, but before he did, he'd locked the front door so nobody can walk in and help themselves. So the wee wifey's in the corner of the room again. He's locked the front door. He's gone to the gents, cleaned and locked the gents. And he's coming back through to ask the lady if she wants to use the bathroom before he cleans it and closes it. And she's nae there. So he shouts his pal back up for the basement. And the two of them search the building because the doors are all locked. The old wifey's nae there. So an old wifey in Victorian clothing came into the pub about 6 o'clock that night and stayed until 11:45 when she did a vanishing act from the building. And the boys thought she was real. The customers thought she was real because nobody sat in the space around her. She vanished out of a building that was locked up. It was a temperance hotel during the 1800s and early 1900s. But during the time of Culloden, Charlie boy, Bonnie Prince Charlie, had man flu and spent 3 nights there. However, I have hearsay evidence that he got more than bed and breakfast. Because the lady who owned the house and lived there when he was staying there demanded that his bed sheets were kept. And when she died 25 years later, her corpse was buried wrapped in the sheets from Charlie's bed.
She wasn't called Monica, was she?
Lady Aradul. She owned it had been the Royal Hunting Lodge when the local castle was burned down by the locals because the English army were in it. It was built as the Royal Hunting Lodge. It was changed a bit in the early 1700s. Then you have the whole Culloden hoo-ha. And Charlie boy at the Thunderton house with his man flu for 3 days. But the fact that his bed sheets were kept for 25 years to be used as her burial shroud, he definitely got more than bed and breakfast when he was there. And now it's a pub. And the current owner has had to do a lot of work because it was shut for nearly 30 years. But while he's used modern materials, he has done it in like the Jacobean style. So it's done in the style of the 1700s because that's the biggest historical link. Right, now I'm going to shut up.
Interesting.
Got one, again, he's a workplace one. place it's a nice one, this one. It's actually, I'll just put the photo in for the actual place. I went working, went for the interview. That's the place. A place in Warrington. Went working there. Had an interview, went in. And as you go in, again, it's a very modern building. A bit of a workshop at the back, office area at the front that you can see. You go in, you walk in, turn right into reception or go straight up the stairs to the offices upstairs. And very pleasant building. I walked into the kitchen and automatically felt that I was being watched. Nothing nasty about it, just curiosity. You're new here, who are you? So I'm making myself a brew. I'm looking round and can't see anyone, obviously. So I start talking to myself. Can I help you? Who are you? Do you work here? The next thing I got one of the
straight into the bedroom.
Yeah, I said it's the office manager came in. She's making herself a brew. I just turned around. I said, "This place haunted." And she looked at me and, "Why? What have you seen?" I said, I've not seen anything. I said, I don't see things, but I said, I know this place is haunted. Is why? What? I said, whatever it is, not nasty. I get the impression it's a young man. I said, he's friendly. He's just curious. Whoever he is, he's just curious. I said, I got the impression in the hallway. I said, when I went in the other hallway into the back offices, I said, I got the impression that, again, he was watching me. He's just being nosy. And she said, well, we had a young guy working for us like 18 months ago. He'd been with the company quite a few years. Since he was a teen, he was a really friendly lad. He died in a motorbike accident about 6 months before I joined. And ever since then, he'd been coming back to the place. Just catching up with people, just being nosy and looking what was going on with his old workmates. And it was a really nice, peaceful, oh, what you doing? Oh, you having a break? Sort of feeling. You always knew when he was there. No one ever got spooked about it, pardon the pun. But everyone knew when he was there. And the fact that I picked up on it was, everyone was like, oh, bloody hell, you're... I said, yeah, I said, I know he's here. And some of the other lads told me stories about him and that, and he was stood in the room listening. But I'd be working away in my office and hello. And just chat with him. He just drift around the offices, being nosy.
We got one like that in my current workplace. He's a member of staff who died in the 1980s, which is why I'd never give his name out in public. And if you're doing everything you're supposed to, you don't even know he's there. when you mess up, you start hearing footsteps going across the upstairs floor when you know you're the only one in the building. The funniest one we had with him, a minister had come in to discuss a wedding, and he came in during lunch hour because he knew I would be free to talk to him. So front and back doors are locked, and he's come in to speak to me. And we're chatting away. Now, at this time, the shop's a different arrangement to what it is now. And there's a staircase goes up to the staff area, but at this point in time, you can access it from the front door without coming in the shop. So we've got one of them bing bong things. So it's every time the light beam's crossed, you get the bing bong in the shop and you can run upstairs and chase whoever it is. So all the doors are locked. I'm talking to the minister. Bing bong, bing bong. And I opened the door towards the staircase and went, shut up, I'm busy. Bing bong, bing bong. And the minister's like, there's somebody gone up the stairs. I'm like, no, there isn't. The doors are locked. He's like, I'm telling you, I can hear the footsteps. I'm like, I know you can, but there's nobody up there. And he's like, no, he says, I'm not having that. I'm like, okay, feel free to go and have a look. So I switched off the bing bong while he went upstairs and had a look, and he came down very, very slowly. And it's like, well, I'll be. I'm like, what? He says, there's nobody up there. I'm like, I told you that. He says, how did you know? I says, because I locked the doors when you came in. And it was just because there was somebody strange in the building who shouldn't be in there when you're closed for lunch. That's the only reason the bing bong was going off on the footstep. So
There's somebody
still there. The staff member is still there, but as I say, if everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing, you wouldn't even know he's there. But every time I get there, if I'm the first to arrive or the last to leave, I'll be like, morning, or see you tomorrow.
You often hear stories like that, don't you, where they like the stalwarts of a workplace. They're reluctant to go, you know.
Yeah.
It's their little empire, their little world, eh? But that's not frightening at all, is it? That's quite nice.
No.
I think they're still
It's
there.
reassuring. And the other thing with this one, because he only acts up if you're not doing right.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody's not doing things right, he only acts up when that person's in the building, so you can track down who's messing up rather quickly.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Mm-hmm.
You do get a lot of that, though.
Muted again to try and stop the echo from my end.
Like you say, it's people get curtailed within the work.
Mm-hmm.
That you spend more time with work colleagues than you ever do with family and everything.
Some people just don't want to let go, do they?
No, that's it. I mean, working in construction, you get lads on that in construction who, especially the old timers, that's all they ever do. They spend all the time working away from home. They do. They've no hobbies outside of work.
Mm-hmm.
And the number of funerals I've been to after they've retired, 6 months, 18 months after they've retired. And like I said, the young lad who had the motorcycle accident, he was really happy at work. That much is obvious.
Mm-hmm.
He enjoyed the people he worked with, and he just drifted back there and carried on doing what he did, just being nosy.
One of our local pubs here, it's in Laswade, which isn't very far from here at all. The old pot man is still there, and he makes himself known. And the cellar was his pride and joy. You know, it was pristine. You could eat off the floor. He's a right character, and everything was immaculate. And it was all old school, and he passed away quite suddenly. It was a good old age. He'd gone working on beyond retirement age, you know, but he had never married, didn't have any family, and his workplace, that was his family, and he passed away. And of course, they got a new guy in, and he's considerably younger than the old boy that had worked in there, and he keeps throwing knives at him. when he's down in the cellar, he hears this noise, and it's an old sort of coaching type place, with beams and rafters. And I've not been in the cellar, but apparently the cellar is the same, lots of sort of cross beams, and he regularly finds knives embedded in the woodwork.
One of the pubs I worked in used to be a stagecoach stop. And what was where you would bring the horses and the carriage in for the stable guys to sort out the horses while you check into the hotel is now the beer cellar and the bottle room.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going down to stock up at the end of the night, and you can see there's a sealed up doorway on one wall and there's another one dead opposite it. Well, on one of them was his room that he lived in, and on the other was his little kitchen, and the main thoroughfare in the middle of the cellar is where the horses would be for him to check them out. So you're bottling up and changing barrels and whatever, and this dude with hair like mine but straight, leather apron, the old drawstring shirts on collar and cuffs, steps out of the wall, walks across the cellar, stops and looks at you as if to say, what are you doing here? And then disappears into what was the other bit of his lodgings. And sometimes you see him stood, bent over like he's cleaning out a horse's foot. So, and he's still on the job, and Christ knows when he's been there since.
Shocks, and I did miss it. And it was me suggested it.
I know, and I missed it as well.
Yes, oh dear.
The UFOs. You touched on the document, did you, last week?
Aye, just a wee bit.
There was an interesting piece. I know. Do you know Malcolm Robinson?
No, I don't know him.
He's a great guy. He's so interesting. He's got the trousers that the chappie was wearing when he was abducted. He's been offered £1 million for these trousers by some crazy American, and he won't sell them. And he's desperate to get a museum to take them on.
Yeah.
And nobody will take them, So I'll just bloody sell them, But he's he's trying to push for some sort of formal little museum or something to take his collection, But he's been offered £1 million for these trousers.
I used to think the stable hand was residual, Carl, but the fact that he stopped and looked at me a few times, like eye contact, I don't think he is residual.
No, if they make contact with you and acknowledge it, it's not residual.
Yeah.
No.
But he always just used to kind of look as if say, what are you doing here? But never actually said anything. Because of course I'm dressed formal in the black and whites for work in the bar. Yeah. So he probably thinks I'm just one of the customers who's wandered through.
And they start throwing knives at you. It's certainly not residual.
Yeah, that's not good.
Well, no, definitely not. I've always what you were saying before about being in costume. I've always wanted to dress up and sit somewhere that's haunted. And when someone says something to me, just turn around and say, "You can see me."
I've done it.
Watch the face.
I've done it. I've got to find the picture now.
I would love to do that. It's like that old joke. The people I share a house with say this house is haunted. I've lived here 300 years and I've never seen
anyone.
Yeah, that's what I've got on my screen cover at the moment.
I used to have that one up on my wall at work.
Very good. So what you're going to be talking about next week then, if it's not UFOs?
Pass. No idea.
That'll be something for you to think about in your sick bed, Carl. I'll give Carl something to concentrate on as he's recovering. Poor Carl's not very well.
It's
poor Carl.
find it. Let's go on the Facebook page. I know it's on the
haunted
Facebook.
pubs.
There was a guy in Scotland who does it. What about the guy that got into trouble because he was actually fined? Was it in Wales? He was loitering in the cemetery, jumping out and shouting boo at people.
Yes.
I remember that one.
Yes,
and he actually got arrested and he got done for disturbing the peace or something, you know.
Mm-hmm.
He actually got fined. Can you imagine in the courtroom reading out the charges, loitering in the cemetery, shouting boo? They must have summoned up some old archaic crime for him.
He's lucky he didn't get slapped.
Haunted pubs would be very interesting. I've been in quite a few haunted pubs.
Well, I've been in quite a few. There's quite a few around Bolton.
Quite a few spirits, eh?
I think that would be a good one. What do y'all think? Haunted pubs?
Oh yeah.
I just did a on Grok. I went in and said, give me a unique topic for a paranormal podcast on YouTube. And guess what it came up with? Ian's favorite, UFOs. They said no.
Carl said we can't do it.
Yeah.
I did a quick search then of haunted pubs in Bolton, and it's come up with a list of 29.
Well, we've got a fair few in Edinburgh. I've had some very interesting results recently.
I need to come to the Banshees because my pal keeps getting gigs playing there.
Right.
And I'm like, get some when I can actually come with you.
We can only have access for investigations on a Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Before that's the only kind of downtime. So I can certainly arrange that. Take you in there. We're getting really good results at the Banshee quite recently.
Yeah.
Really good results.
I'm going to have to come up and visit you lot.
Yeah.
What about that other one? The other one that's supposedly really haunted, has a basement, huge.
Mary King's Close?
No.
It's not a pub.
It's actual pub. It runs. Just a second. I've got it on the map. I've got it marked. Got to type in Edinburgh.
Another one in. I can't think. Edinburgh's full of haunted pubs.
Oh yeah.
With Adam and Eva's. That used to be my local in Norwich.
That's a Scott Monument. Finnegan's Way.
White Hart, Banshee.
Yeah, the Banshee's supposedly haunted.
I can't find
that's the one that we're actively investigating.
Here's a couple of photos of when we ended up playing Ghosty. Basically, it is a tourist attraction. And the scarers didn't turn up one day. And we were there hoping to do an investigation. But when they said the scarers didn't turn up and they knew the rest of the team that I was with, they're like, here, help yourself to the costumes. And with it being Halloween week, because it's like, as you can see, October 25th, it's Woodchester Mansion. The basement was done out with UV lights.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, I nicked the white outfit and kind of hid so that I looked like a cobweb. And then once the person is fully in the middle of the room, I step forward and make it clear that I'm not actually a cobweb. We had great fun running around that place playing Ghosty. Because it's done in a big square with a central courtyard.
Mm-hmm.
So when people are in the courtyard, there's massive windows. And we're all in different coloured cloaks, hoods, and robes. And we're lined up, one in each panel of the window. One person of the group looks up, grabs their camera. We all jump down. So when everybody else looks up, there's nothing there. And then as we hear people coming along the long corridor that goes the full length of the house, we're waiting at the top of the spiral stairs. So as they get to the point where they can hear our footsteps, we're going down the spiral stairs and they might just see a little bit of fabric draping down the staircase, but they can't see us because it's a spiral staircase. And we get to the bottom and drop down into the other cellar that's not open to the public, because there's a hole about the size of a fireplace in the wall, and we just dive through. So we're invisible and pop up in a different fireplace in a different room. It was fantastic fun.
We have fun with people in the Banshee as well.
Carl, please.
Yeah, the Banshee is the one I was thinking of. I just got it confused.
We have fun sometimes because the way it's configured, at one point in the Banshee, you're underneath what is the famous stone circle. I don't know if you've seen that of the
Witch's Temple.
Well, the stone circle is actually a complete fabrication. It's not
the Witch's Temple.
The guy who owns the pub. The guy who owns the Banshee and the Whistle Binkies, when they were clearing out the old, workings, they had this pile of stone left over, and they thought, what are we going to do with it? And they actually fabricated this.
Yeah.
But of course, stories grow legs, don't they? And all of a sudden, it's the next thing. But when we're in investigating, and one of the rooms, you're immediately underneath the stone circle.
If you watch any of the catacomb tours on YouTube, etc., if you listen to what the guide says, they tell you that this was built in the 1970s. But
we have fun because these people, we can hear the tours coming in, and they're in the stone circle, and we can hear them getting fed all this rubbish by the Mercat tour guides and such like. And we're in the room immediately underneath them, and we can hear everything.
I'd be sitting down there going, ooh.
We get a bit naughty, and we knock on the walls, and then we go, ooh, and you can hear them all going, did you hear that? Did you hear?
Yeah.
Because one of the market ones you go
just been up.
Sorry.
He's my local. I go in there. Well, I used to go in there quite a lot. I still go in there occasionally. It's called the Old Man Inside. Built in 1251. Earl of Derby in 1651. James Stanley was executed outside it. It is very, very haunted. And I'll leave it at that for now. Because it is one of, if not the oldest pubs in Britain. And it is spooky.
Well, there's certainly lots to talk about with haunted pubs, so I think that would be a very good one to do.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, it's been great to come on. Thank you for asking me along, Carl. It's been interesting.
We hope you feel better soon, Carl.
Yes.
Carl's not very well, so hopefully he'll be better.
He's been floored with one of these horrible bugs that's going about, so.
Oh, there's the Adam and Eve.
So I guess I will see you all later. That's a nice house.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, I remember Carl putting that up when we did the UFO thing. I said there's probably some crim out there kidnapping people and probing them. And then Carl found an article of somebody in Texas that was actually wearing a great alien mask, abducting people and probing them.
79 people? Is that what the number was?
Something like that, yeah.
You got to worry about people like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just how he gets his kicks. Is it the mask? The probing?
Where the looks on their faces while they're being probed?
Well, yeah. There's a lot of kinks going on there.
Yeah.
We may have been drinking buddies, Carl. We may have been in the Adam and Eve at the same time at some point, because that was my local for a while as well. Uh-huh. Oh, well.
Yeah.
There we go.
Oh, I think it's getting that time.
Yes,
Right. We'll let these people go.
Time to climb into the basket with Andy. Who's Andy? But thank you for inviting me along, people. And I hope you get well soon, Carl. Hope you're well very soon.
See you.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Night, folks. Night.
Night.
Have fun. Get well, Carl.
Yeah, feel better soon.